Welcome to the show, sports fans. This is the Treasure Valley Prepcast on IdahoSports.com.
That's right. Welcome in another edition of the Treasure Valley Prepcast on IdahoSports.com, breaking down District 3 athletics and activities week in, week out in the great state of Idaho. Brandon Baney joined by our Treasure Valley resident and expert, Logan Green. LG, you're a busy guy these days.
Yeah, it seems like we go nonstop here. One season ends and another one begins almost immediately, but it's almost like state tournament time right now, to be honest, because we've had this tip-off classic, but it's been really fun. It's always hard to get back into basketball like that first weekend because I keep saying on that drive, and I'm so used to doing football, I got to turn the page and fully get ready. But it was fun to get back in the mix this weekend.
Yes, we are catching Logan in between sessions here at the Capital Classic, a new tip-off tournament taking place at Northwest Nazarene University. We will talk more about that in a little bit, but you mentioned kind of straddling those lines between fall sports and winter sports, Logan. I feel like me personally, I've been doing that for like a month now, just
Right.
in terms of getting everything ready on IdahoSports.com. So just a refresher of what's going on at the site. And this is really the time of year you can be checking in on IdahoSports.com every single day, because we'll have something new, whether it's just the scores from last night. We get 95% of the scores in within 24 hours of the game being played. And you're just not going to find that level of accuracy and detail anywhere else.
Right.
So that's a big reason to come. But also, we're taking one last look back at the fall sports season, Logan. We are publishing all of the all-conference teams around the state for boys and girls soccer, volleyball, and football. So every single conference or league that held a all-conference selection process and reported it to us, we've got it up on the website. Volleyball and soccer are already there. Still working on football. That should be done by the weekend. And so you might see a league that's missing, and some coaches just decide not to do it, Logan, which is unfortunate, but that's the way it is. So if it's missing, it's either A, hasn't been reported to us, and if that's the case, please send that information to me, Brandon at IdahoSports.com. We don't want to omit anybody, but sometimes leagues just don't hold all conference selections. But regardless, we wanted to honor all of those outstanding fall sports athletes one final time.
Yeah, and I think I've seen that comment out there on social media. People are like, well, where's this league? And you've kindly responded, they didn't send me anything. They don't do it. It's not my fault. And then, I think people like to play the victim. And there's no victims here. It's just sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah, and personally, I like the all-conference teams better than the all-state teams that come out.
Yeah.
I think there's a little more, not accuracy, but just the all-state teams tend to be, it's hard for a coach up in North Idaho to vote on players from the
Right.
Treasure Valley. They're going to naturally defer to, okay, which team made it the furthest in the playoffs? Which team did I actually see in the semifinals? So I feel like the all-state teams are more like, it's like the Heisman Trophy. Okay, who are the best players on the best teams? I feel like the all-conference teams are more representative of who were the best players.
Right. Because they're people that know, those coaches see those guys play week in, week out, see them how they compare to other teams they've played. So you're right. It's more indicative of who the best players are in the league.
For sure. So all of that all conference stuff from the fall sports seasons are up on the site, IdahoSports.com. In terms of winter sports, Logan, our girls basketball previews launched 2 weeks ago. We had our first girls basketball coaches poll of the season. We'll dive into those results here in just a second. We are working on boys basketball previews now, Logan. This is kind of the opening week of boys hoops. All weekend, we're going to be working on getting those previews up on the site by the start of next week, Monday, Tuesday. All of our statewide boys basketball previews should be up on the site at IdahoSports.com. So we're already starting to load in team pages, so you can check that out if you want. But all of the previews will be in at the start of next week. And then wrestling, Logan, is also getting started this week. Al Fontes, who does so much great work for Idaho wrestling, not just for IdahoSports.com, but he's also a coach and an advocate for wrestling in the state of Idaho. He is working on a mega, very comprehensive, very detailed statewide season preview for wrestling takes them a long time to put it together. So next week we'll have boys basketball previews, and then in 2 weeks we'll have our statewide wrestling preview. So the week of December 11th, you can be on the lookout for our statewide wrestling preview. But in the meantime, Logan, wrestling fans, don't fret, because the Matt Chat Prepcast is returning for a second season. We will do the live Matt Chat Prepcast. It is a standalone wrestling-only Prepcast on IdahoSports.com. It'll be live every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Mountain Time. We will take questions from the fans. We'll talk about the biggest storylines going on in the sport of wrestling. Our first episode will be Tuesday, December 5th, live at 8 p.m. on the IdahoSports.com YouTube channel and Facebook page. And then the next day, we'll put the audio in on the podcast feed as well. So, yeah, everyone has been asking me left and right about that. Hey, is Matt Chat coming back? And yes, the rumors are true. We'll be back starting on Tuesday, the 5th. Very exciting.
Yeah, maybe my nephew wrestles for Idaho Falls. Maybe I can slide you a 20 to promote him as much as possible there, Brandon.
Well, Coach Nieder, the wrestling coach there in Idaho Falls, he's very active in the Matt Chat Prepcast.
So they know each other. So his son and my other nephew, they're good friends. So it's a small world over there.
It is. It's a tight-knit wrestling community for sure. So we're very excited to have all that great wrestling content coming your way as well. But Logan, let's start with girls basketball, because that starts so much earlier than all of the other winter sports. I mean, Boise has played almost half of their schedule so far, which is just crazy to think about. But we did have our first coaches polls of the season for girls hoops. And I thought we could just kind of break down each classification. For 5A, Logan, Boise checks in at number 2. Owyhee is number 5. And so your top 5 is Lake City, Boise, Coeur d'Alene, Rigby, Owyhee. I've got no qualms with the order here. I mean, just based on head-to-head results, Lake City beat Boise, Boise beat Coeur d'Alene. That's a pretty natural 1, 2, 3 right now.
Right. And this is going to change because Rocky Mountain beat Owyhee earlier this week. And that's going to change. And Owyehee's up north right now this week in one of those early season, they hosted a team from the north earlier, and now they will go up and be up north later this week. And so they'll have the opportunity to play. I believe do they play? I think they're going to play Lake City again, or no, Rocky will play. Rocky didn't get a chance. So excuse me. Owyhee hosted those teams from the north, and now Rocky Mountain is going up north to play. They beat Post Falls, but they're going to get Lake City and Coeur d'Alene here. Maybe a chance for Rocky Mountain to make a name. I mean, Owyhee hung tough with those teams, and they beat Owyhee. So, I mean, if you want to play that letter of translation game, you can and say, you know what, I think maybe Rocky flying a little under the radar right now in 5A.
Yes. So we're recording this on Friday, December 1st. So Thursday night, Meridian fell to Coeur d'Alene. All these teams have come up to North Idaho. Meridian fell to Coeur d'Alene 70-26. You had Lake City beat Eagle 69-53. And then Rocky Mountain went to Post Falls and knocked out the Trojans 72-47. And then they'll swap partners, Logan. It's like we're at a dance here. And so Coeur d'Alene will play Eagle on Friday. Lake City will play Rocky Mountain. Post Falls will play Meridian. So the 2 games tonight with the Coeur d'Alene schools are going to be really intriguing to watch. And then just to wrap up Saturday, then you will have Coeur d'Alene playing Rocky Mountain in a rematch of last year's 5A state championship game, by the way. Lake City will then play Meridian, and Post Falls will conclude with Eagle.
I mean, you look at it, Rocky Mountain beat Eagle by a very similar score that Lake City did. So I think that game is going to be a lot closer than people are thinking. And you know what? If Rocky Mountain comes away this weekend 2-1, there's no reason they shouldn't be bumped up into the top 5.
Yeah, and I think Owyhee could slide out there, certainly. Rigby's going to be tough because they're over in East Idaho kind of doing their own thing. We won't really see how they stack up against other teams from around the state until the Timberlion tournament, which comes up at the end of December. But so far, no qualms with the coaches poll, except for I'd probably, like you said, swap out Rocky Mountain for Owyhee there. At the 4A ranks, Logan, Bishop Kelly checks in number 2 in the polls, right behind Shelley, number 1, and the 4A runner-up from a year ago. BK off to a nice start. They have had one setback so far, but otherwise BK lost a lot to graduation. Caroline, not the player of the year, but they also do return some talent.
Yeah, and their one loss is to Boise, and they held the Brave to only 49 points. It was 49-35. Is that the closest game Boise's played all year beside the one they lost? And BK is looking strong, and the 4A girls is stacked. I think you look at the top 5, and it's across the state, right? You've got teams from the north that are good, teams from Eastern Idaho that are good, and then BK over here. But it's going to be a tough league to get through, no matter where you're at.
Yeah, Sandpoint, the defending champion. You've got Pocatello, who's really good. Minico just beat Pocatello. Twin Falls and Jerome are both really good this year. Skyline has the Shippen sisters. Shelly, of course, brings back a lot. So, yeah, 4A girls is going to be the most wide open this year. A lot of good teams at the top fighting statewide, for sure.
Yeah, totally stacked.
Yep. So yeah, Bishop Kelly's 5-1 on the season. They are 1-0 in conference play. They've played Valley View. They'll play Emmett next week. Really, the big challenge for them is going to come against Columbia. They don't play the Wildcats until the new year, 2024. So we'll have to wait on Bishop Kelly there. If we go to the 3A results, Logan, there is one team in the top 5, and it's that old standby Parma. The Panthers check in at number 5 in the poll this week. Now, if you look at Parma's record, you're thinking, boy, they're 1-2. Like, that's not super overwhelming, but then you have to consider who have they played. Well, Coal Valley Christian and Melba. Those are 2A juggernauts.
Yeah, and there's no shame there. Coal Valley, I think they also beat Fruitland earlier this week too. They've just been on a rampage right now, so no shame there. But Parma is and has been just the top level of the 3A over here in the SRV for the last couple of years. And, we've snuck in a couple of teams. A couple of years ago had 3. Weiser won that play-in game. People weren't expecting them to do that, and we weren't expecting them to do that, and they went up and did it. And so, you got to watch out for the other teams as well. They might not be there right now, but it's a long season.
For sure. Homedale has played 7 games already, Logan. They're 4-3, and they are by default in first place just because they've played a ton of games so far. That conference is going to be interesting. Date to circle on the calendar for Parma, December 8th. They'll welcome Sugar Salem to town for a Friday night showdown at 7:30. Sugar Salem just beat Snake River, the defending 3A state champions, last night, Logan. So I don't know. Maybe we can have a planning meeting, see if we
should. Yeah, that one should be on the schedule. I think that should be on the schedule.
For sure. I'm going to try and work on that this weekend too. Maybe some interesting dates we could try to fill with some broadcasts and things like that. But yeah, Sugar Salem at Parma Friday, December 8th is going to be a must-see game for sure. If we go to the 2A poll, Logan, we talked about Coal Valley Christian and Melba. They're both in. The Chargers are ranked 2nd. Their only loss this year has come to Grangeville, the team that's number 1 in the poll. And then Melba checked in a tie for 3rd with Malat. Kind of the same old story here. Mm-hmm. These two have just been trading blows the past several years.
And even New Plymouth picking up some votes in there too. Again, this is going to be a stacked league. Melba has been, on top obviously at the end of last year, and you know what? It's always tough to repeat, but it's tough to knock them off too. That they're coming back, looking to go back to back this year. And Coal Valley also, they got 2 votes this week to be the top team, and like you said, the only that one loss right to Grangeville. And they've been able to knock off top teams. That was, some of these teams are challenging themselves out of conference, and that's what you want to do is you go and you challenge yourself. And that's what some coaches said when I talked to them before this tip-off classic, where this doesn't hurt me, right? You lose early, and you never want to lose, but ultimately at the end of the high school basketball season, you could go 0-20 during your regular season and win 4 games in mid-February, and you're dancing, right?
Right.
Theoretically. So it really doesn't hurt to go learn lessons, to play these good teams and to see how you stack up and be ready for February.
Yeah, for sure. Melba and Coal Valley Christian made that season opening trip up north and played Grangeville and Lapway on the opening weekend. 2 really good teams. Those are Melba's only 2 losses this year. And Coal Valley, of course, got the split. They beat Lapway, but lost to Grangeville. Another team just to keep an eye on at the 2A level, Logan, Ambrose. I know they come in with a 2-2 record, but Coach Kelly Barber has put together a very challenging schedule. They've already traveled to Declo, which is the heavy favorite to win District 4, but they're also a team that's going to be in the mix for a trophy at state. And now they're also traveling over to Ryrie this weekend to play in the Ryrie Bulldogs shootout. This is a girls basketball tournament taking place over in Ryrie, and they played Malad, a team that was picked to win District 5 yesterday in the opening round of the tournament. Now they lost 63-42. They're going to turn around and play Marsh Valley today, and then Saturday opponent to be determined. But this is a big legitimate tournament with a lot of the East Idaho 2A powers like Firth and Ryrie and Malad. Yeah. They're all there competing. And so Ambrose, with a challenging schedule, I'm looking forward to seeing how they improve as the season goes along.
Yeah, I mean, and you're also playing, like you said, Marsh Valley today, a 3A team. It's a tough, again, opening schedule that looks like teams are challenging themselves more. We wondered how this, maybe max preps would work, and if people would want to play easier schedules, things like that. And it hasn't, I don't think, really made much difference. And people are wanting to go out and challenge themselves and be a better team and play better down the stretch. And I think you play those tough teams early, and it helps you down the road. You learn what you do good, you learn what you do bad, and you're ready to go when you see a team that's quote on your level, right? In your conference play. And you know what? You've done the hard work, and you're ready for the conference gauntlet.
For sure. 1A D1, Logan, nobody in the top 5 in the coaches poll. And this is a league that is always wild and unpredictable. Too early to really glean too much from the results. But in a similar vein, Rimrock, with a veteran coach, Kyla Jewett, they have designs of competing for the district title and going to state. And they've put together a pretty challenging schedule. They've already played Oakley, the 1A D1 runner-up from a year ago. They've played Richfield, a 1A D2 state participant the past several years. And they've played Tri-Valley, a very good team with 6'1" Michaela Hart at the 1A D2 level. So yes, Rimrock is only 2-4, but they open conference play on Monday against Victory Charter, and they're the team I'm kind of keeping an eye on here in 1A D1.
Yeah, and like you said, it is unpredictable. It seems like somebody new is thrown into the mix there. Liberty Charter is usually the team. We see them there pretty much every year, but there's always somebody else. Last year it was Greenleaf that made it. We've seen Notice make it the year before that, and it could be anybody that comes out of that, and guess we'll find out. Maybe it could be Rimrock. Rimrock comes a lot, right? On the girls' side, they are not strangers to the state tournament.
I'll tell you a team that I've got on, and that could be the surprise team this year, because there's always like a surprise team, right? Idaho City, I think, has got some pretty impressive athletes. First year coach in Tim Brown. He had been an assistant prior to that, but I don't know. That's kind of my dark horse pick this year is Idaho City, I think. So
I like it. We haven't seen them at state in a long time in basketball. It's been a while for the Wildcats.
Yeah, so good luck there. And then at the 1A D2 level, Logan, first coaches poll of the year. Council tied for second in the poll. They are tied with Dietrich. Kendrick is number 1, but again, very early in the season.
How did Tri-Valley not get a vote?
I don't know.
They are 4-0, and all 4 of those wins are against 1A Division I teams. But I'm just a guy that talks, so I'm not sure how Tri-Valley doesn't get a vote there.
I'm not going to question the coaches that are voting in the poll. Now, I will say that some of these coaches probably cast their ballots before the week's action started, and so Tri-Valley at that point was 2-0. But since then, they have picked up very impressive wins over Liberty Charter and Rimrock, 2 1A D1 schools. So
and they play today. Today's Friday. They play Garden Valley today, and that will be a good test for them. And then Council the week after that on Wednesday. So we should learn a little bit more about Tri-Valley the next 2 games, because usually those are the other 2 teams in the mix here in the Long Pin. It's Garden Valley, it's Tri-Valley, and then of course it's Council.
All right, Logan, Wednesday, December 6th, the next Wednesday, Tri-Valley at Council. We sending you there to do the game?
That would be another good one. That would be another good one.
Yeah, and they do a lot of double headers too. So I haven't looked at the boys' schedule, but it's probably a girls boys double header. Speaking of the Council boys, Logan, they are they're a program that's lost a lot to graduation, right? They lost 4 or 5 starters, depending on, who was playing in the lineup, but 5 really good leaders. They lost their head coach. He moved on. They have a new coach this year. And at the same time, here comes Council out of the gates on the boys' side, Logan. They're competing in this. It's called the Border Brawl. It's called the Idaho-Oregon Border Brawl. Payette, Weiser, and Council have gone over to Nissa to play Nissa, Burns, and Ontario in a little, round-robin tournament to start the year. Now, Council fell in their first game last night I'm trying to remember who they played. I think it was Nissa.
But is it like, how does that compare? I think Nissa would be a 2A school here, maybe even pushing a 3A. Like, that was not, it's not like they went over and played a team playing 6-man football or something like that. Like, they played a bigger school in Nissa. And that's going to be a tough game no matter what. But even with all the changes that Council has had with the turnover at coach and some of the players gone, that's going to be a tough task no matter what.
Yeah. And so also I saw this on social media. Not only is Council working in a bunch of new players and new leaders this year, but for this game last night against Nissa, they were missing most of their seniors because every senior in high school has to do a senior project, right, Logan? And a lot of the Council seniors were presenting their senior projects yesterday. And so they were not there with the Council basketball team. So it was a lot of juniors and sophomores. Your leading scorer last night ended up being Garrison Zelensky with 11 points. We recognize his name from football.
Yeah, you look at the stats, and it's really funny. I think maybe I saw the same post you did. But Owen Hatfield scored a bunch of points. Zelensky scored a bunch. Wyatt Vining, I think, was on that list as well. And it's like, well, these guys are the starters on the football team. I know you're missing your seniors, but it doesn't always translate. It's really funny how players can be very good at football, but then you don't see them on the basketball court. It's obviously not the same sport, and you don't see tons of players going to the NBA and the NFL at the same time. So we recognize the names, but definitely not the exact same sport out there for them. But yeah, great job for them, and those seniors having to miss them. That always makes it tough, especially going up against a bigger school like that.
Definitely. Hey, I did want to give another individual shout out here. This is also something I saw on social media earlier this week. Caldwell beat, and this is girls basketball. Sorry to backtrack here, but I was thinking about it. Caldwell beat Valley View 51-38. Caldwell, I think, is going to be a team that's going to be on the fringes there.
Yeah.
The best player in that district for a SIC that doesn't get any publicity, any love, any attention is Tamar Callender for Caldwell. She is a dynamic athlete in that game, Logan. 10 points, 9 steals, 4 assists, 3 blocks. Man, that is filling up the stat sheet.
It's hard to get a couple of steals, but to get 9 of them, man, that's impressive. That's a tough defensive effort. How many, you said 4 blocks, 3 blocks?
Yeah, 4 blocks, 3 steals.
So
3 rebounds. Sorry.
So she essentially 13 times down the court took it away from Valley View. Whether she blocked a shot, or she stole it away from them. That was 13 possessions that she altered right there. That's impressive. Yeah. And Caldwell, I think, has been impressive. I mean, they had a non-conference win over Burley, and that's always a good thing to pick up. So, yeah, watch out for them. I know we're backtracking, but the Cougars would be fun to see them back at state.
They're just a team that never gets the love and attention, and so I wanted to give them a little shout out here on the Prepcast. And if there's a team, a player, a story that you're like, hey, how come nobody's talking about this? Send it in to Brandon at IdahoSports.com or Logan at IdahoSports.com, and we'll gladly break it down for you right here on the Prepcast. That's what it's all about, for sure. So, yes, we've had Payette and Weiser and Council competing at this early season border brawl over in Nissa, Oregon, Logan. And then, of course, there is the other kind of kickoff tournament to start things this year in the Treasure Valley, the Capital Classic. Now, this is something they've done in volleyball the past couple of years, but the Capital Classic for the first time in boys basketball, tip-off tournament hosted by Capital High School at Northwest Nazarene University in Nampa. Pretty good field. You've got Capital and Bora from the 5A SIC ranks. You've got Bishop Kelly and Ridgeview from the 4A SIC ranks. You had Post Falls and Lewiston travel down, a couple of 5A schools from the north. You had Blackfoot travel from the east. They're a 4A program. And then the Baker Bulldogs, perennial juggernaut from Baker City, Oregon, came over as well.
Yeah, and man, they put it to Bora yesterday. I mean, it was really never close. Bora trailed early, and Baker, I mean, there was a running clock in the fourth quarter for that game. Baker was in control, and they looked really good. And it was fun to see them play. They put it on. They were good. The Treasure Valley teams did pretty well. I mean, outside of that game, the Treasure Valley teams won. Capital took care of Blackfoot. Ridgeview knocked off Lewiston, so they knocked off a 5A school. Great job there for Ridgeview. And then, of course, I guess Post Falls beat Bishop Kelly, so I forgot about that one. But it was a good first day of the tournament. Lots of good action. Besides Bora, everything was a little interesting down the stretch, so to say. There was some drama in everything, and Brandon. So the start, get this, case of the Capital game. I don't know how much of it you watched, probably in and out of it, but it was 77-53 when that fourth quarter started.
Yeah.
The final score was 95-84. I'm telling you, Capital was up by 24 points at the start of the fourth quarter, and Blackfoot got it to 4 with about a minute and a half to go. It was 85-81, and Blackfoot did it. They were missing players. I don't have the sheet in front of me. Somebody technicaled out of the game early. There were 7 technical fouls in this game. One of them was on the bench for the Blackfoot coaches, but 6 on players. I mean, it got a little chippy, and some of them were like Morrell for Capital. He drained this deep 3, and then he had some kind words to say to the defender in front of him, so he got teed up. Blackfoot player threw a ball at somebody. He got teed up. It got a little hairy late in that one, and the officials just trying to stay on top of it. And I think half of those technicals were due to taunting, and that, I get it. You want to be excited, but there's a time and a place, and it's not in your opponent's face. And that was kind of where the disappointment was for me, at least in watching that there was a lot of take that on both sides to each other. And I get it. Like, you want to win and do it with your team, not in the other player's face.
Can be so hard too when it's the first game of the season. You've got all this pent up energy, and now you're finally actually playing in a game. And
that was, what? And I kind of, me and Glenn just said, and that was the comment we had to each other. It's just like, you're just excited to be there. You're playing on a college court. And it is funny when they play on that college court, there's 3 3-point lines. There's the first arc, that's the high school line. And then there's the second arc, which is that the women's college hoops line? Yeah. I'm not sure what the second one is. And then the third one is the college line. They were using, and you could see the officials even, like, they didn't put their hand up because their foot was on the college line. And then yeah, that was a 3. They are even looking at the college line because it's the dark one out there that they think they're going off of, and they're missing it. And the players were using that as their 3-point line. Most of the threes made were behind that college line for every game in the tournament. And there were some that were 4 or 5 feet behind the college line in this game, or in all of the games, especially that Capital Blackfoot. There was a lot of points there, but it's just interesting to see players can shoot from way deep. That high school, how the game has gone more from going down low and trying to go inside to an outside game, where now the high school players are essentially hitting NBA range threes, just like it's no big deal. They don't need to be inside to hit those shots. Everybody is shooting them outside, and some games had a lot of that, and then some games had big players going inside. I mean, Tiddens for Ridgeview was our player of the game as they knocked off 5A Lewiston, and he had himself a game down low. He had dominated inside the post, had a nasty 2-handed slam in that game. I was very impressed with Ridgeview, and I think their game with Capital is going to be very good. I'm disappointed. I have something I have to do. So Ryan and Lucas are going to do that game tonight. And I'm kind of disappointed I don't get to see it because I really think that's going to be a sneakily good game.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun for sure. So yes, let's talk about quickly the final scores from yesterday. You had at the top of the bracket, Baker beats Bora 61-28. Then in our second game, Ridgeview beat Lewiston 61-53. Capital got that 95-84 win over Blackfoot. And then in the nightcap, Post Falls beats Bishop Kelly 60-53. And I feel like we've buried the lead here a little bit. IdahoSports.com is broadcasting.
Yes, we're there for it all.
we're broadcasting all of the games from the Capital Classic. So if you're listening to this on Friday, the matchups today, Logan, first we start on the consolation side of the bracket. The first game up today is going to be let me make sure I've got the right.
Lewiston and Blackfoot should be first.
Yeah, that's going to be at 3:30. I just wanted to get the time right. And then Bora and Bishop Kelly will play at 5 in another consolation game. And then the semifinals tonight, Logan, Capital Ridgeview at 6:30. That's kind of the big game that's circled. And then Baker will play Post Falls at 8:00 tonight. And then we will have a 7th place game, a 5th place game, a 3rd place game, and the championship all on Saturday. Games will start on Saturday at 10.
I think it's at 10 o'clock.
Yeah, 10 o'clock. So you can see the list of games by clicking on the game streams tab on the homepage at IdahoSports.com. But that's a good way to take in some early hoops action.
Yeah. Just put it on while you're working. If you got nothing else to do, just have it on the iPad, on your third screen, whatever. And we'll be there for all of it. Should be fun. And like I mentioned earlier, the games will run late. The last game didn't tip off till almost, I think it was past 9 o'clock, and it was supposed to start at 8. So if you're waiting for a game and you don't see it, go back and check the game before it and see if we're still live there, because that's probably what's going on.
Yep. So anyways, good luck today, Logan, calling the early games at the Capital Classic. It's going to be a lot of fun. Basketball season is off and rolling. And of course, wrestling coverage picks up again next week with the Matt Chat Prepcast, returning Tuesday nights, 8:00 on the IdahoSports.com YouTube channel and Facebook page. It is our standalone wrestling only podcast we do every single week. So, all right, Logan, I know you've got to run. You've got some games to go.
I need to get ready for my stuff. It's been a busy, kind of wild couple of days just trying to get it all together. It really does. It feels like a state tournament. There's tons of games to cover, tons of stuff to get ready before every day. So, yeah, I'm going to go do that now.
I hope they're feeding you well at the Capital
There's
Classic.
been no time to do. I mean, it's like literally we end the stream and we start the next one. I mean, it is, and then somebody runs down to talk to the coaches and we are ready to go. And it is, so luckily I had a bag of candy and little snacks in my, oops, lost my earbud there, and other little random things to snack on throughout the day. So we survive.
Yeah, I was going to say real quick, and then we'll wrap up here. Matt Harris, the athletic director at Ryrie, longtime, IdahoSports.com broadcaster. They're hosting a tournament. We talked about Ambrose as they're playing the Ryrie Bulldog Shootout. He must have it figured out, because look at these tip-off times, Logan, for the Ryrie Bulldog Shootout today: 3:20, 4:55, 6:30. 8:05.
Yeah,
so whatever, he's got something figured out there with the tip-off times for sure.
he's a wizard. He did the PA at the Holt Arena this year for the state tournaments, and it was awesome.
Yeah. So anyways, lots of good basketball coverage going on. Of course, you can always check in at IdahoSports.com for all of the scores and schedules. And of course, all those boys basketball previews and wrestling previews are on the way as well. Plus our all conference teams from the fall sports season. All right. Thanks for tuning into the Treasure Valley Prepcast, everybody. For Logan Green, I'm Brandon Baney, and we will see you next time on Idaho Sports.